Hey guys, KH Cloud here with another Honeymoon review. I know it's been a while, a little over a week since my last Honeymoon review, but I took a break for a bit and there wasn't that much coming out. For the Honeymoon reviews, we're starting off this month with Drawn to Death, the first of two free PlayStation Plus games for PlayStation 4 owners, and the latest game by my favorite game designer, David Jaffe. Drawn to Death is an online multiplayer third-person shooter with a style that kind of makes it feel like a notebook from a teenage anarchist. Maybe more of a punk than anarchist, but kind of like I would summarize it as a notebook of those that in high school were just too creative for the classes. Like too creative to just stick to just STEM stuff and wanted to do like art all the time or music or whatever. That's definitely the way the art style looks. It's definitely the way that the weapons react with the world and look, and that's definitely the way that the characters act and look as well. The humor is very much that of teenagers' humor. I found it kind of amusing. Not to say that I like teenagers' humor necessarily, but I found the character of the game is throughout. It's one of those. It's a game like Costume Quest to me, where the character is so deep and rich and real that it makes the game that much better. This might not be like, it definitely isn't top notch like humor or something, but it breathes life into the game because it's exactly in that style of humor that you would expect someone who's a bit of a punk in high school to have. And that's why I loved it. The gameplay itself is pretty standard. It takes a while to kill people. Although maybe that was because in every game that I played, I guess the issue really is that there isn't that big of a community right now. But there are a lot of people that dropped out, and think I played 3 games, and in 2 of them, somebody dropped out. And when someone drops out from your team, you get these huge extra boosts. I think it includes HP and weapon damage. Like basically, like they buff you up because they're not putting in someone else to fill that spot. I don't know if they can. I think there was a game that I joined halfway through though, because it seemed like there were already a lot of deaths by the time I joined. But overall, yeah, the biggest issue is they just need to get more people playing it. So please, play it. It's worth it. The weapon, creativity kind of reminds me a bit of Ratchet and Clank. There are weapons that are focused in like the 80s in a lot of cases, and maybe like the early 90s. There's a weapon called the JRPG, and the character is holding it looks like a Super Nintendo, and they just put a cartridge into it and fire it, and like there's a dragon that forms up with like pixelated fire all around him, kind of like as you would expect from a 16-bit or an 8-bit RPG. The game is definitely mature. If you're going into this thinking that it's the perfect game for you and like your 8-year-old, no. Maybe your 14-year-old, although you might not have that much of an interest in doing that. Your 14-year-old might have more interest in seeing that humor. You might want to keep them from it for a while because there's a lot of f-bombs. There's a lot of swearing overall. The characters in it I found really interesting. I feel like there could be a single player campaign. Like this could be a single player game just on the strength of character alone, and I'd want to go through and complete it. I'm not that big of an online multiplayer player yet, but I still enjoyed it just mostly because of the different characters. One of my favorite characters, so they start you off with this character called Johnny Savage, who's like a British punk rocker, right? And then they have another character that they call Ninja, or Ninja. And Ninja is like, kind of like an anime girl with a shark head. And she has the anime girl voice. I like your character. To be fair, it's more than just a shark head. Like, it's a half shark head, and then there's like a half human head hanging out the side. It definitely is a grotesque thing. If you don't like body horror, you're probably not going to like that. But it also is just kind of like a really fun, creative idea. I feel like, the design team... I would have loved to have been on the design team for this game. I feel like there were basically, like, no limitations to what they could have done. Except for probably don't make it boring. And that seems to be, across... Other than, like, you have standard weapons. Like, you have, like, an assault rifle and you have like a shotgun, and you have like a traditional RPG, rocket propelled grenade, not role playing game. But outside of those simple weapons, you have just a whole bunch of like really awesome ideas, and weapons themed around the high school theme. So there's like a dodgeball weapon, which we all played in high school, and hopefully they still play in high school. I think they banned it in some places. I don't know why. The maps are a bit small. And the time I was playing this in the honeymoon period, I never got to play anything outside of a 2v2 team deathmatch. But I've heard that there are other matches. And maybe they're available later on, or maybe I missed something in the mode settings. I never got out of unranked into ranked. I think you have to play 5 matches, and I played 3 in the time that I gave to myself. I would say that an hour is the time that you usually get most of the necessary mechanics to understand a game implanted in, right? When it comes to an online multiplayer game. When it comes to single player games, a lot of times they extend that out to 2 hours because you have more story, you have more cutscenes you want to go through. And it also enables you to kind of slowly build some of those mechanics out. It does vary greatly on the game, but generally I feel like that's kind of, that's why I leave the honeymoon period at 2 hours for single player, 1 hour for multiplayer only, and, like probably an hour for DLC, or maybe a half hour for DLC, and half hour for handheld games. It really depends on the game. But that's general kind of what I would say, is the time period that as a designer you should be trying to get that introductory period in. And I feel like they succeed on that on the base level in Drawn to Death. I do wish that I saw more of the modes. I do wish that there was a single player campaign, because I actually kind of like the single player. The only part I didn't like about the single player bit is that the enemies were 2D. You were 3D, and you could see the definition in your shadows and stuff. The enemies in the single player portion, the tutorial portion, were flat 2D. No, definition really. You could tell they were just a flat plane that was moving along, that was animated. And they were animated well and all that kind of stuff. But it did make it somewhat difficult to tell the difference between an enemy and an icon I got to pick up. So that I didn't like. That's one thing I wish that they kind of, changed. And I'm glad that once you get into the actual, team deathmatch stuff, it's basically define 3D models for characters and icons of things in the real world are 2D. Overall, I would say this game introduces itself to the player fairly well. If this is a game that you're going to get involved in and hooked on, you will get hooked onto it within that first hour. Just based on the character, based on the world, and based on, just all the creativity that you see, you will get hooked in the first hour, or you probably won't like the game. That's just, but that's a sign of a good introduction. They want to get you, they want to make sure that you, are invested if it's something that you're interested in. Because every game can't get every audience. That's just not going to happen. So, yeah, I would say this is a really good introduction. I'd say it has me hooked. There's one of my friends that I really would like to see play this, because I almost think like it's his notebook that they stole. My notebook looked very similar sometimes to the stuff that they had, but I just wasn't as good of a drawer, nor was I as musically inclined as my friend. So I imagine that he would probably pick this up and love it immediately. Anywho, guys, that's my honeymoon review of Drawn to Death. If it sounds interesting to you, definitely pick it up. I'd like to see more of you out there playing. And peace.